How's it going, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Bochum Career Mode. This is episode number 25. We start off today's episode with going into the January transfer window, and we actually finish by ending the January transfer window. So this is pretty much, I believe, from around about the 1st of December all the way to February, something like that. So we go over about 2 months in this episode, so apologies, there's only 2 games in today's episode, but we do go through the transfer window, so hopefully that's okay. We start off with a bit of training, and Thomas Eisfeld coming to us again, saying he's not getting enough game time. And we also go in for a player. Now, we were looking to improve on our midfield. Robert Tescher is an old man, and yes, okay, he's probably one of our better players in the team in terms of performance-wise. But next season, he will definitely not be good enough if we are in the Bundesliga. So I am wanting to improve on that position. And what better way in getting rid of Bright Edmondji by signing somebody to replace him. Now, I don't really need another striker. I realised that very quickly as we started to move towards a one-striker formation. Obviously, we started off the second season playing in a 4-1-2-1-2, and we actually needed 2 strikers. We needed at least 4 just for some cover, and we started playing really poorly in that formation, and we've switched over to a 4-3-2-1 and more recently a 4-2-3-1. So all of them really involving one striker up top. And we've actually got Gonvula. Kone can play that, but he generally plays on the wing. And also Theo Baer, who's had a fantastic start to the season. So I decided to get rid of Bright Edmondji. He just hadn't been good enough. He'd scored 1 goal, and I hadn't even scored it. That was in a simmed game. So going in for Grisha Promel, I actually originally wanted Mohamed Bezic from Everton. And sadly, they just wouldn't take Bright Edmondji. And when I went in for another player, just in case Promel didn't accept his contract, it wouldn't let me because I'd already included Edmondji in the deal. Didn't matter though, as I actually really wanted Promel. Of all the players, I think it made more sense. He was a German player. We're sort of buying into that German philosophy, and to be honest, he's a good player. And again, slightly realistic, he's not actually getting a lot of game time at Union Berlin, as they do have quite a few good quality midfielders. And I think this might actually be the right move. We're a better performing team in the league. We're on joint performance with probably Union Berlin, as they do sit, I believe, either a point above us or roughly about the same as us at this point. So I think it was a sensible move, and he's actually got a little bit of decent potential. I think around about the mid-70s, maybe 77, 78. So definitely a decent player to play in the Bundesliga at least, and hopefully he'll be with us if we get promoted this season. I do talk a lot about getting promoted this season. I think if we don't, this career mode is going to die off, because 3 seasons in the second league is depressing. So I'm hoping this season we get to go into the Bundesliga and play some big teams and get back into the top flight that we actually deserve to be in. So you can see in the background we're now also going through just some contracts. Danilo, Robert Tescher, Ryman, and there was one of the player, Eisfeld, that we offered contracts to. We had to go into every single contract negotiation. Sadly, I wanted to try and delegate them and be really quick, but they all either wanted release clauses or 1 extra year, which doesn't mean an extra year. It means that they just get a wage increase and their contract doesn't increase, which is a bit annoying. So we had to go and ensure that all the contracts went through. We got at least 2 years and no release clause on our players, and we did all that. And following that, we also got a bid for Dominic Baumgartner, as I believe it was a Serie B side wanted to take him away. We'll see what happens with that a little bit later on in the transfer window. Going into a youth scout report as well. Not a lot of great players, to be honest. I believe this was the final scout report from Germany, but they weren't great players. There were some okay ones, but actually a little bit later on we do release them, as a lot of them just don't make the cut, as they have pretty poor potential. I'm not always in for the potential, but when a player has poor potential matched with like a 45 overall, I'm not interested. I'm just going to get rid of them. We'll see what happens in a few more scout reports, see what those players come out as. I can say I've played on a couple episodes ahead, and it's looking quite good. Our youth prospects are looking very good. You saw their Promel stats, very nice, very all-round decent player, and generally his work rates look pretty good with good stamina, good strength. He's just a very good workhorse in that midfield, and I think that's what we've been missing. As Robert Tescher was that in Season 1 and Season 2, because he's losing all those physical stats, he's sort of lacking that little bit of sort of physicality in that centre role. He's still got the passing, and he can still chase down a man. He's just a little bit slower, and not as strong, sadly. But not to matter, we will be replacing him with Promil. That will be his long-term replacement for at least another couple of seasons. Janelt is a little bit of a different player. I've eventually worked out. He's a little bit worse at passing at the moment, but I definitely think he'll be a little bit better in the future. And I'd say Janelt's much more of a box-to-box. As Robert Tesche in his later years, he's just more of a defensive midfielder who occasionally pops up, scoring an absolute banger from outside the box. There you can see, going into the first game after the winter break, we were actually sitting in third place, I believe, and we were heading into this game against Bielefeld sort of quite confident. We hadn't lost in about 5 or 6 games, and we were looking really strong. The 4-2-3-1 was working really well for us, and I believe this was being played on the new patch at this point. There's been a couple of new patches been released every time I go back to play career mode, so it does take me a while sometimes to get used to things, and you see we actually started off really well. I'm not making excuses because we actually played really well in this game, but in general it takes me quite a while to get used to things, as this is the only career mode I actually play, because if I played another one I wouldn't have enough time to record this and do anything else. I'd like to start maybe another career mode as well at the same time. Maybe once we get into the Bundesliga I'll start maybe something else, but at the moment I'm happy playing with Bochum by themselves, and actually I'm really enjoying the career mode. I'm looking forward to recording a new episode each time I log into the game. The game was going really well for us though against Bielefeld, as we go ahead and win a penalty. Now I'm not sure why the referee didn't call it back for the first foul. He didn't even acknowledge that as a foul. He tripped up Shipnowski just before the second foul here, which was a definite foul, just really clumsy by the Bielefeld defender. And we go ahead and win a penalty. I believe this is our second penalty in a while. You can see that's just proof I do play on PC, that we have a Windows security update. Really frustrating when they pop up in game. It's a good job it didn't tab me out this time. We go ahead and score with Gonvula, who goes ahead and puts that in the back of the net. A really nice finish by our top scorer, just really smart. Not sure why the keeper didn't just move a little bit, as that pretty much went right past his ear almost. As all he had to do was maybe stick out a hand and he'd probably stop the ball quite easily there. But Gonvula doesn't mind. He nets his 13th goal this season and his second goal in the game, and it was looking pretty good for us. And actually in the 30th minute, Eisfeld puts the ball into Gonvula, takes the 1-2, gets the ball back and makes it 3-0 before half time. Eisfeld as the captain in this game, as Robert Tesche was taking a back seat, as I wanted to see how Promil and Janelt fared in the centre of the park, and actually in this game they played pretty well. Still missing Robert Tesche. There's something about him, I don't know what it is about Robert Tesche. He's just a fantastic player, even though he is 68 rated and declining pretty rapidly. But that didn't matter though, as we did go 3 goals up before half time. We could have been 4 goals up, but Eisfeld just couldn't quite get the volley off there. Bielefeld would get a chance just before the half time mark, but a really poor shot choice by their striker would mean that they would go in 3-0, and they were really bad. That was their only chance of the game up until that point, and they just weren't looking very good in this game. Bielefeld are supposed to be one of our rivals, and their away fans would be making a miserable trip home after such a bad performance. They would get another chance there, as a really good block from Kim Jin-ya would mean that they would be denied a pretty good chance there. And actually they do go ahead and score in the final few moments of the game. In the 75th minute they would pull one back, which did make it a little bit nervy, as you know they still had 15 minutes to pull 2 more goals back to at least get to a draw. And I'm not sure if just some players, they just were a little bit nervous about possibly conceding one there, but if I'm being honest, we sort of did quite well to hold our heads high and actually sort of rough it out. And we got one final chance here with Gonvula. A good save from Kluven would deny Gonvula his hat-trick in this game. But overall, not a bad performance by us. Maybe the last 15 minutes a little bit more nervy, as I just tended to pass it around the back, as we had lost leads before. Maybe not as drastic as 3 goals, but we had lost a 2-goal lead a few times, and I just wasn't really wanting to lose another game here. So we did go ahead and win against Bielefeld. A win against our rivals is always nice. You see that Baumgartner will not be going to Shamrock Rovers either, as he rejected the move to the Irish club, and he also rejected the move to the Italian club. So sadly we're stuck with him for now. Bit annoying, I just want rid of him. We also had an offer for Gonvula, showing that he's making moves. Al Hilal, I think that was the club there. The Saudi Arabian team wanted to take him away for nearly £15 million. We said no, and we also got an offer for Fabian Rees. Eventually, we negotiated them up to 2.4, but they couldn't put the deal through before deadline day, and that actually ended up falling through as we advanced here. I wasn't against selling Fabian Rees, as Olkowski, our young youth prospect, also plays in the same position as him, has very similar stats, just not quite as fast. But I'm not also disappointed, as Rees can play up front. He could play on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, and to be honest, he's a really good squad player to have. I'd only be tempted to get rid of him if he starts complaining, as I do think he deserves to pretty much be starting every game, as he is a solid player. It's just a shame we have Shipnowski and Olkowski ahead of him pretty much in his starting position. He may have to look for starts possibly up front or possibly on the left-hand side if he's wanting to get into this team. Moving in to just a transfer just after deadline day, it would be a pre-contract signing. I obviously don't want to go massive on signing loads and loads of players for free, because I think it's a little bit unrealistic, but this signing I think is a realistic signing. Signing Tony Janczak, player from Mönchengladbach, a team pretty close to Bochum, a team that they're not bad and they actually have some decent players. I'm not sure if there's massive links between Mönchengladbach and Bochum, if players tend to move between them, but just because he was running out of contract, he's a little bit older, around about the 30-year-old bracket, and he has a lot of Bundesliga experience. I think he'd be a fantastic signing. I'm going to have to see when he joins us next season, but he looks like a great player, a really good dressing room leader nonetheless, and a pretty decent defender. He pretty much would walk into our team at this stage. Heading into the final game of today's episode against Sandhausen, I'll give you a little spoiler. This was a bit of a boring game, as we did go away from home. We would maybe start in a slightly weakened side, just playing a couple of players that maybe wouldn't normally start. Romeling was starting in left back and Leitch was starting in centre back. Not sure about Leitch and Arsene Janik as a defensive partnership, as they just don't quite click sometimes. There's some games where they play really well and other games they just don't quite work out. I'm still trying to play them over and over again just to make sure it's just not the fact that they've not played enough together. But in this game they actually played okay. It wasn't the worst game they ever had, as we do go ahead and score with Gonvula, who continues his goal scoring run and his penalty run as well. Another penalty scored by Gonvula, making that 3 from 3, I believe. I can't remember when he obviously scored a penalty in this episode as well. And also, sorry, I missed the recording, didn't quite take the foul from Dijkmaer, but clearly he was a little bit embarrassed to be outpaced by Musa Kone there on the left hand side, and just sheer frustration as the former Hamburg man dives in, doesn't get anywhere near the ball and takes out Musa Kone there, and that is a definite penalty in my eyes, and I believe it was only a yellow card for him as well, which fair enough. I think it was probably fair, and Sandhausen would have one final chance in the game, but that would be all very, very boring game. Both sets of fans will probably be disappointed to see it, as only a penalty was the deciding factor in this game. You'll see from the match facts, 2 shots on target all game. I've seen some bad games, especially being an Everton fan. That's probably one of the worst games I'd ever go and see if there's only 2 shots on target. But that is going to be the end of today's episode. Do hope you enjoyed watching. Do leave a like for this episode if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for more career mode content in the future. And I will see you for the next episode of Career Mode, which will be out very soon. So thanks for watching and goodbye.